In order to keep bringing you guys tons of free content, we work with brand partners who you'll hear from in this episode, including an advertisement from Zopa Bank. We're launching TwentiesFest, an immersive event that will help you take your next step in your 20s. Whether that's progressing your career, starting a business, getting your money sitch sorted, buying a house, prioritizing your well-being, or making new friends, this is the event to be at. Help us shape the event by pre-registering your details via the link below. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Talk 20s podcast. Today, we're joined in the studio by Made in Chelsea's Sam Prince. But this is Sam as you've never seen him before. When doing the research for this podcast, the only narrative I could find about Sam in the news and across the media was that he was just a carefree party boy, often labelled as childish and immature. However, the Sam we met on our briefing call was not like this at all. And this sparked a huge discussion around whether a self-confessed party boy can really grow up. In this episode, we chat about Sam's 20s so far, from gracing our TV screens at 18 to building 2 successful sustainability-focused businesses. This is one of the most interesting chats we've ever had on the podcast. Don't forget to hit that subscribe or follow button and enjoy the episode. So Sam, welcome to the Talk 20s podcast. It is a delight to have you on the sofa. We struggled to get you booked in because Made in Chelsea's filming is still going on. Sorry. It's all right.
We were booked in one day and then we were filming
and
it didn't work out, but I'm really happy to be here. Also, the studio is delicious. It's quite nice.
Delicious. I love that word.
Honestly, I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you for guys for having me.
It's a delight to have you. And I think what we really want to discuss today is the stuff that we see all the time in the headlines with Sam Prince, and it's everything to do with Made in Chelsea.
There's so many headlines about me.
There are quite a few. You know, you type you in on Google, there are quite a few.
Really?
Yeah, there are. We do our research.
Maybe I need to Google myself more.
And maybe don't do that.
Yeah.
Maybe don't. But I think one of the things that we really wanted to chat about on the podcast is that, like, reality TV, we have quite a few reality TV stars that come onto the podcast. And
who's your favourite?
Who's my favourite that I've had? I love Sharon Gafka. She was amazing when she came onto the podcast, and she's doing amazing things now. Nice. She's obviously on Love Island. But yeah, no, we love having guests on the podcast that are from this space, because it's often really interesting to see life outside of reality TV.
Yeah.
So you're going to tell us a little bit more about that, yeah?
Yeah, whatever. I'm actually, ask me whatever questions. I'm keen to.
It's going to be a good podcast. Now, when I did Google you, Sam, and I was going to say don't Google it yourself, because there's quite a lot of words that I saw, like rebel, childish, immature, menace, liar. Do you think you live up to all of those names?
Liar.
There was one that said liar.
I think my younger self definitely lives up to those names for sure. I think ever since I was a kid, I've always been going against the grain, whether it was whether being at school, and I was always the kind of class clown, always trying to mess around, and I actually thrived off that. And I think I probably definitely have taken that into my later years as well. So yeah, I do. That probably does align with me for sure.
And do you think that's why you got the Made in Chelsea gig?
I think I'm pretty spontaneous. I probably don't. I do things and maybe don't think about them. Yeah.
Well, I know from chatting to you that recently, like, there's been a lot of growing up in kind of your world, and you've been doing,
I'm on this whole big rebrand for it's around about 12 months now, where I've been trying to kind of be the best possible Sam I can be. I think I've made lots of mistakes in relationships where I just want to be better, and I feel like I nearly lost my girlfriend for a period of time, and I was like, I don't want that to ever happen to me again. So I was like, this is a whole new rebrand.
Would you say then that you're doing it like the rebrand is for a girl, or is it?
I would say
partly
for a girl, but it's like I think I turned 25 and I was like, I need to grow up a little bit.
Okay.
Have I grown up? I don't know, but I think I'm getting better for sure.
And I guess that's why you come on the Talk 20s podcast, because
that's exactly why I'm here. Yeah.
A lot of your 20s is that you kind of go, I think a lot of people would be able to relate, like loads of us will have like a young, reckless, like youth where we've literally just been really careless. We're not really very thoughtful. And then as you kind of grow up into your 20s, you kind of put on this bit more of like it's not even serious, but you're just a little bit more pulled together.
Yeah. I think I spent a lot of my youth from like 18 to 24. I was just out the whole time. I just thought it was like the best thing ever. I couldn't believe that I could go out and just party the whole time. I was just going out 3 to 4 nights a week. I just found it just so moreish. And now my life's changed dramatically, where I maybe go out twice a month. things have changed a little bit. And also I'm in quite a serious relationship, and I think it's just part of growing up. Don't get me wrong, I still love a night out, but it's they're not as common as they used to be.
Well, let's take it back to Sam then, growing up way before you kind of were on Made in Chelsea and stuff like that. Tell us a little bit more about your experience and growing up.
Growing up, I was lucky enough to go to a great school. And I mean, to be honest, I still want to go back to school. I think about it all the time. School for me was just the best time ever. When else will there be a period in my life where I can just go and see my mates every day? It was just like so good.
Yeah.
And then at school, I did what I kind of needed to do at school. I got my grades, but at the same time, I was just constantly getting in trouble. I think I was always just doing the most silly things, which I still find quite funny now. But at the same time, I was just quite a young boy, I think. And that was kind of my school life. And then I left school. I worked as an estate agency for a little while when I was 18. I said to Mum, I'm moving to London. Walked into a Foxtons in South Kensington. I was like, and I met this guy called Brad, who was the manager, and he said, I said, I really need a job. And he said, and within a week I was working there. Did that for a year and realized this is just not for me. And then I started my first business when I was 19.
What was your first business?
My first business, I was selling hats.
Okay.
Prince caps, kind of had my own name on my hat. It just seems a bit bizarre now, but at the same time, at the time I thought it was great. And that was kind of my first step of trying business by myself.
Always wanted to be an entrepreneur then?
I think I've always wanted to be my own boss. But I think I never understand the struggles of actually being your own boss. I think everyone wants to be that almost like founder of a company. But I think there's a lot of steps that need to be taken for order to that to become a founder, but also become successful. I'm sure you know as well, it's a difficult struggle, I think, starting your own company, especially in this current climate.
Let's move it to a little bit more of a chat about your background and in terms of your family. I know you were really, really close to your grandparents growing up. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, wowee, that's a switch up. I grew up very closely with my grandparents. I lived with my nana for many years of my life. And this year has been a roller coaster. Back end of last year, I was kind of in Bali having the best time. Came back at Christmas, and my granddad sadly was dying and passed away. And then 2 weeks later, my grandmother passed away. So it was like a huge change and shift in my life. My nan was regarded as, I saw her as my mother. So it was a huge shock to the system. And it was a very difficult, and it's still now, I'm even on the way here, I'm on the train, I'm waiting for her to text me. And I've never lost, I've always found myself, I'm extremely grateful that I've never actually lost anyone in my family. And it kind of all happened all at once, which was really difficult. And I'm still now I'm waiting for her to text me. I find it very difficult to believe that it happens, that it happened. But it's something that over time will get easier. And it's a tricky one because I've never dealt with grief, and I feel like I've never really been able to. I can sympathise with people. I've never really understood what grief's actually like, and losing someone and that feeling that they're never coming back is a very it's a tough one to ever get your head around. And I think you have good days where everything's fine, but then you have bad days where, God, I wish I said this, or I wasn't ready for that. But I'm very fortunate that I had the most incredible relationship with her, and she was just unbelievable. I couldn't have asked for a better grandmother or mum in ever. She was just amazing. So there's lots of beautiful memories I have, but at the same time it's extremely saddening, especially when I've got so much going on in my life, and that one person you want to talk to about your highlights is not there, is a tricky one.
If you could say something to her now, like given all of that,
I don't know.
What would you want to say?
I think it's more just miss catching up with her. But there's
the day to day
catching. Like, she messaged me every day. It was a phone call nearly every day, and it was constant checking in with each other. And we're this little team where, there's so many things I would love to say to her, but that time's gone.
She sounds like an amazing person.
She was also just classic.
Yeah.
Like, she was just someone you could have a giggle with. And for me, it was like, that was, as much as she was my mom and my nana, but also she was my best mate. Like, she had great chat. And it was just, I was just extremely lucky to have her. And also, I'm turning 26 soon, and I've lived almost 26 years with her. And I have the fondest memory. So I'm extremely lucky. So lucky. But these things happen.
Absolutely. So you spent most of your like childhood growing up with your grandparents.
Well, it was very much with my mom and dad, but also when I got a bit older, I stayed with my grandmother for a little bit as well. So it was kind of mix and match.
You a troublemaker growing up?
I was such a troublemaker. Yeah, I was always getting in trouble. I was always messing around at school. I was very fortunate to go to a great school, and I probably messed around a lot.
I imagine you probably sent your gran a bit like wild when you were, causing all that trouble. She was probably
The thing is, she was a bit of a rebel herself. So I think my mum always says that I get it from my nana, because she's always the one who's just like a bit of a rebel. And I think that's where I get it from, for sure. She doesn't really, cool. She lives in the moment. She's very spontaneous, and that's kind of me as well.
It's really important that we do talk about grief on the podcast, though, because I think for many people, your 20s is, some people experience it earlier on in life, but like this is a point in your life where you really have to come to terms with, one, being an adult, and then two, coming to terms with really like adult emotions. And when you're a little bit younger, grief can sometimes feel a little bit different to when you're, okay, I'm a fully fledged adult now and I've lost this person. And I think it's a really difficult thing to come to terms with. How have you found that kind of period of your life?
I think, it's a really difficult thing to come to terms with. I feel like everyone's dealing, from what I've learned, I feel like everyone has their own battles with certain things. And I feel like, it's maybe been way more understanding of like people and grief. And I have a few friends of mine who've lost their parents. And I can't imagine what they're going through. It's a really tough situation.
Absolutely. Taking it to the Made in Chelsea storylines and the relationships that you had. You've had quite a few high-profile relationships that have been
high-profile.
Relationships that have been in the public eye, shall we say?
Yeah.
What has your experience of dating been in the public eye?
I to be honest, if I'm really honest, I wouldn't say that I've dated many people in the public eye. I'm no Brad Pitt, but I think, I've dated some people in the public eye. I don't really see it as it's not a massive change, really. Seeing
your relationship played out on a television show.
Okay, seeing a relationship played out on television is a different story.
It's a different story.
Because suddenly everyone knows your business. Everyone knows, as much as people see the show as not real or scripted, that is very much not the case. What you see on the show is very real. There's real emotions. There's when you have that scene and you're talking about things in your relationship with someone who you truly love, there's a huge after effect to that as well, because we're not playing characters, we're not playing actors, and we're going home and I can leave that Sam at work. I go home and I'm still Sam. Yeah. So as those emotions and how you feel, it's extremely real. And it can be so difficult at times, because also you're not just sharing it with your colleagues, with your friends on the show, you're also sharing it with the general public.
When you step into your 20s, some of the biggest struggles our listeners share with us are money orientated. We know it's hard sometimes to find your feet in regards to money when big life changes happen. Maybe you're leaving uni, moving out, moving cities, starting a new job, getting married, making career changes, starting businesses. These big life moments can be expensive. And that's why we've teamed up with our sponsors, Zopa Bank, to open up more conversations around money. To us, it's really important that we talk more openly with our friends and close network about how money impacts our lives. So let's stop brushing this under the carpet and start opening up. Thank you, Zopa, for supporting us on this mission. You can find out more about Zopa by downloading their app.
And the general public seem to sometimes have a very particular view on your relationship, on how you treat other people. But yeah, it can be so difficult sometimes, trying to kind of navigate through that, and it can be tough.
Is there anything that's really shocked you about living life in the way you do on Made in Chelsea that you kind of think, I didn't expect that to be an outcome of being on a show like this?
Not really, no.
It's exactly how you expected.
Yeah, I think it's how I expected. Yeah, I don't think there's any like big surprises for sure. it's definitely benefited me massively in business wise for sure. But yeah, nothing really.
In terms of your relationships then, tell us about your lovely, gorgeous girlfriend, Inga.
Inga, yeah, she's a sweetheart. She's lovely. We're in the process of moving in with each other, which is exciting, which is a big step. Huge step. And so, yeah, it's going to be an interesting time.
Mm-hmm. And the latest season that has just come out, you've just recorded, and it's going to be out when?
By the time this comes out, this will be the back end of the season.
Yeah.
So we'll be going on to the summer season, which is
super exciting. Are you still the kind of party boy? Like, is that what you're kind
also,
of...
Also, people are like, do you play this character? And I'm like, no. I'm not playing any character. And no one else is playing characters. We're very much being ourselves on camera. And I feel like it's, right now I'm playing me.
Yeah.
And I think at times I used to play up and I used to do stuff which was a little bit, I would say, rare. To probably the general public, but I feel like people do make these mistakes growing up, and I've made loads of mistakes. I'm only 25 and I've made several mistakes, but I just think it's part of learning and growing up. And I think these mistakes are definitely molding me into a better Sam.
Yeah. What do you think then that better Sam is like doing that's different then from like previous years?
I don't go out as much. I am way more focused on work. I feel like I've given myself more responsibility elsewhere other than girls and going out, which I think has definitely put me into a better path and led me down a road which I think is way more healthier and has longevity. Going out the whole time is just it's fun, but it's not like, don't get me wrong, I love a night out, but at the same time, it's just not, it shouldn't be the be or end all. And at one point, it was just like, I was just filming, going out, and that was kind of my life. And now I feel like I experience way more of not living that routine.
The relationships and the situationships that you've had on the show, what's been your biggest learning from all of that?
Oh, biggest learning. I think I upset my girlfriend, Inga. I upset her massively last year when there was another girl involved in our relationship. And that was a huge kind of learning curve. Seeing someone upset, as much as it can be deemed on camera that I don't really care, like that was soul destroying for me. The fact that I've had that effect on someone else. And I think that's for me is a huge like learning curve. I don't want to make anyone sad. As much as I seem like I've been pretty good at it, I definitely, that's not the way I want to go forward.
I think a lot of people who watch Made in Chelsea would probably ask, well, what's different? What's changed? How is this going to be like the one that you'll see yourself with for a long time? Do you feel that way? Like,
I feel that way. For me, I very much try and live in the moment as much as possible. And right now I'm having fun with it, and it seems to be healthy for me.
Yeah.
Is she the one? Yeah, I hope so. I mean, no one wants to be in a relationship for 2 years and not to work out. But yeah, I mean, I hope so for sure.
Amazing. You also recently came out and spoke about the fact that you've been recently diagnosed with ADHD.
Yeah.
How has that impacted your life? Because that must be huge.
Yeah, I think I'm ADHDing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love ADHD. Constant distractions. I got diagnosed last year. I've always, even at school, I was always distracted. Always distracted. I could either have hyper focus or just getting an email done would be the most difficult task in the world. But that has been a very interesting kind of discovery because it has allowed me to understand myself more and understand how Sam works. Because I always wonder, why am I so distracted? Why do I not want to do this task? Why do I find it hard to get things done? But now I understand the reasons why. And I think I've definitely found a happy way for me to get through things and a more productive way to get through things. I think it's just living healthier, not going out as much, and just learning the best way I work. And I think I've definitely found that way.
Do you think, I'd be very interested to know actually, do you think that's played a part in the kind of whole rebrand? Because obviously for you, finding out something like that about yourself is probably a huge part of like an understanding about yourself. And that kind of seems to have come at a point where you're like, I'm not that the party boy that you might have seen in earlier seasons of Made in Chelsea. Do you think that's had an impact, those two coming together at the same time?
Well, the ADHD
and like realizing that you kind of don't want to live that party boy lifestyle.
Maybe. I think it's been a lot about growing up.
Yeah.
I think the ADHD it's been a nice discovery to understand why I work in certain ways. Because especially in my work life, I remember I can either be unbelievable at a task, or I can really struggle to do small things. So that's been kind of the main highlight and benefit of finding that out. But I wouldn't say it's kind of helped with the rebrand. I wouldn't really say that.
A lot of people on the show have also come out and said that they've got ADHD
I
as well.
I think a few people do have the show. I don't know exact, but I know a few people do, yeah.
Do you feel like it's quite common for people in the world that you're in to... I just keep seeing more and more people kind of come out by saying they've got ADHD, and it tends to be a lot of people who are, it's also, either influencers or they, performers, just creators. There's loads of people.
Everyone's coming out and saying they have ADHD, which is, I guess, a good thing.
I'd love to ask you a little bit more about your 20s in general.
Yeah, please do.
And I would love to know what your biggest adulting failure is. Is there something that you've done that you think, I cannot believe I even did that? Like, a younger Sam. It can be something you learned from. It can be something funny, anything that you can kind of think of.
I may have not made it yet. I may have not made my biggest 20s fail, but I think I've definitely made big mistakes in relationships for sure. Especially over the last year with Inga, that's probably been big fuck ups. Making people sad has been definitely a big learning curve and a big one that I regret for sure. But I think that's part of growing up. I think 20s is an interesting age because you're so young. And I feel like you can kind of get away with certain things. Yeah. And like, I'm turning 26 next week, and people are saying, "Oh, we want to do something for your birthday," and I'm like, absolutely not, because I'm still 25. Because I like being in my 20s.
Yeah.
I'm scared. I don't want to get old. I'm very much happy in this place. But I feel like, your 20s are all about learning, and I think I'd rather learn as much as possible I can in my 20s and not fuck up later in life.
Yeah.
But the 20s are also very difficult because so much responsibility comes very quickly.
100%.
Which I think I found it, I don't want to be here talking about like mental health and stuff, but at the same time, I can understand why there are so many issues currently with people's mental health and also how they are dealing with things, because there seems to be an immense amount of pressure on young people. People are constantly scrolling on Instagram and people are seeing people driving these amazing cars and living this luxurious lifestyle, and realistically, are they living that life in reality? Probably not. And I feel like it's a very damaging social world we live in. And I think it's really quite scary that people are putting an immense amount of pressure on themselves when actually they should just chill and just keep working hard on whatever their passion is, and I'm sure it will work out.
Have you felt that pressure then, kind of growing up, to kind of live a certain lifestyle, do a certain
for sure.
thing?
I think it's I think it's. I've definitely seen that, especially with social media. I mean, people's screen times now are outrageous. I mean, the other day I looked at my screen time, it was like 7 hours.
Wow.
What the fuck was I doing for 7 hours? Do you know what I mean? What was I doing? But it's just like you get sucked in, and then you get down these holes, and you're like looking at different pages and like you're looking at other people, and I feel like you find yourself constantly comparing yourself to other people. And I think that can become incredibly unhealthy. And I definitely get sucked into it. I have a little brother, and he's been working out loads, and he's like, I want to look like this. And this guy's so fucking jacked. And I'm thinking, please, like, this is not real. Like, this guy probably doesn't look like this. People have edited their photos. Please don't aspire to be that. Please don't like put pressure on you. But it's impossible to get away from it because social media is such a key part of everyone's lives at the moment.
Do you think it's tricky then? Because obviously, like, we all portray a certain type of lifestyle, especially, I guess you can say that for like Made in Chelsea.
Oh yeah.
Everything we post
I've
on
never
Instagram.
Put a bad picture on Instagram ever. My Instagram life is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I look like I'm living this like great, perfect life, but I can assure you it's fucking not. But on Instagram, I think that's why TikTok maybe is a little bit better, but Instagram is the highlight reel. Like, have you ever posted a bad picture of yourself?
Not intentionally. Maybe Georgia has posted a bad one of me. She's definitely freeze framed me on a few shots of like reels and things like that where I've got like 20 chins or something like that.
25
but
chins,
I've never
fine.
done it to myself. So
it's Instagram I think can be used as a fantastic tool, especially if you're growing a business for sure, but also can be a tool which I think can become incredibly destructive.
What would you want people to know about your life? Obviously they can look at your Instagram and they can see, you've been to amazing places, you've got amazing businesses. But what would you want people to understand about really what's going on in your life behind the Instagram facade?
Oh, right. How much should I say? Oh God. I mean, I think I'm so lucky with what I do day to day, with my businesses, with the people I surround myself in. I think I'm incredibly lucky. But at the same time, my life is not. I definitely have times where I can go incredibly sad, where I'm dealing with my own stuff, or I'm not happy with how things are going, and I can at times put an incredible amount of pressure on myself, and I get extremely overwhelmed with trying to do so many things all at once and trying to get somewhere so quickly. And I have to constantly tell myself to slow down and just like things will work out, and I don't need to put this amount of pressure on myself. But I think that's just part of being in your 20s, and like life is not perfect. And I think people watch us in these shows think, oh, they live on, what they do is go for coffee all the time and like just go to the gym and that's it. But actually there is, I think also with the show is living your life on the show, and you're sharing intimate details of your relationship, your life, whatever it may be, your friendships, that other people would never normally expose.
What have you learned from that like overexposure then of your life? Because I think you've probably fast tracked a lot of things that, you know, I think for a lot of people they'll have quite a few skeletons in the closet that they would absolutely never want the general public's opinion on. Everyone kind of has a bit of like a commentary on your life. You know, you've kind of grown up in a different way than a lot of people in their 20s has. So every kind of mistake you've made, any kind of thing you've done that people don't necessarily agree with, you've kind of got people's views on it. How has that impacted your life to constantly have people commenting?
Yeah, there are people that comment on certain different things, and I personally, this I don't know whether this is bizarre, but I'd rather people, if I'm on this show and I'm living my life on this show, I'd rather people commenting than not commenting. You don't want to be a show and no one fucking talks about you, right?
True.
Like you want to be spoken about. So I feel like I don't take too much notice, and if people are giving me attention in certain ways, it doesn't really bother me. I know there's certain people on different shows and hate affects them massively, which I completely understand. But for me, honestly, I would like some more. I'm joking.
Some more hate. We'll try and make that happen.
I'm kidding,
podcast.
But no, I don't mind it. I think it's interesting to hear people's point of views, and I don't hate it.
Absolutely. So we always say on the podcast that, and you kind of alluded to it there, that like absolutely no one in their 20s has got it all figured out. Everyone you see is working their way through something. They are trying to get better at something in their life. For you, what are you trying to get better at this moment in time?
What am I trying to get better at? That is such a difficult question. What am I trying to get better at? For me, it's not what I'm trying to get better at. It's I just want to look after myself better.
Yeah.
And I think for me to be the best possible Sam I can be is taking care of myself and learning more about myself. And I feel like I've learned so much myself just in this year with what's gone on with my family and what's been going on with business. And it's like I'm just trying to focus on me as much as I possibly can. And that can be difficult, especially when you're in a relationship and you're working, and suddenly these responsibilities rack up, and it's really difficult to actually just focus on you and look after yourself. And for me, it's just taking care of myself and taking time for myself and realize what works for me. And I do see life as a bit of a performance when I'm in meetings or whether I'm on a Zoom, whatever it may be. I want to wake up and be the best possible Sam I can be. Do I achieve that all the time? Probably not, but that's what I try and do.
Well, Sam, it's been amazing to chat to you on the podcast.
That was so quick. I could stay here all day. That was so quick.
We'd love to chat to you all day, honestly. Yeah. It's been amazing to chat to you on the podcast. But we always end the podcast in the same way, and we ask every single guest this question, and I'm fascinated to hear your answer. If you could look a 20-year-old Sam in the eye and give him just one piece of advice that would see him through his 20s, what would you say to him? What
would I say to him? Would I change that much? I'm not sure I would change that much. I feel like that's part of growing up. When you're growing up and you're going out, what I'd say, I would just say be patient. I think things happen, and I think if you work hard and be patient, things will work out. And I think when I was younger, I was always just like consciously anxious if things are going to work out. Am I going to be the best possible Sam I can be? And I just think be patient and work hard. I think things will be okay.
I think so many young people can relate to that, because I think it's something where, you know, you grow up and you kind of just expect that overnight, like I'm an adult now, everything's going to work itself out. But it takes time. Like it takes so much longer than you think it does, especially when you're trying to grow businesses, trying to grow careers and things like that.
And you're constantly comparing to other stuff.
Exactly.
Your mates who may be doing a little bit better than you. And you're constant. So I just think be patient and just work on yourself. And I hopefully things work out.
Some wise words and a truly changed Sam, I think, from, earlier 20s.
Maybe not yet, but we're getting there. I'm definitely a work in process. I'm definitely, I think, better than I used to be.
Definitely.
But thank you for guys for having me. I really do appreciate it.